Yeah. 11 o'clock. Yeah. That was a
Nice.
hammy that I inherited my parents when they downsized. I got some furniture, and it's pretty cool. I can mute.
I'm just waiting for Substack to catch up.
Come on, Substack.
It says it's going.
Why don't I ever see them? Oh, there it is. No.
It just takes a minute, I think.
Let me refresh. I'm going to refresh YouTube.
Okay. So when somebody is like loading up the hearts.
And there's YouTube. I can never pull
Eileen, you're still muted.
There it is.
I was going to say, I should go on Substack and do the hearts for the algorithm.
Just make sure that if you open up Substack, that you mute it on your phone. You're still.
Gotcha. I should go on Substack and do the hearts for the algorithm.
There it is. But if you open up Substack, that you mute it on your phone.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. All right. So our topic today is intimacy, and I wanted to start with getting everybody's idea of what intimacy means to everyone, whether that be a surface level or something deeper. And I want to preface this with saying that I've been spending the past year, maybe two, really deep diving into this concept, and I've recently run across creators and therapists that have been talking about intimacy that's kind of echoing what I've been coming up with on my own. So gosh, which way do we want to go with this? Onyx, do you want to start us off?
Yeah. So intimacy. Intimacy is interesting. Intimacy, when people think of intimacy, I think the first thing they think of is a sexual relationship, sex of some sort. They think sex and intimacy go hand in hand, when I necessarily don't. Intimacy for me means closeness. It can be platonic friendship. It can be closeness between partners. It doesn't have to be sex. And I'm going to tell y'all, like, straight up, I have not had sex since 2013. And that is okay with me, except for I had a manic episode, and now that's kind of changed. So, I'm kind of Randy, baby. That's intimacy for me. For a long time meant close companionship. Without sex and not necessary, no sexual relationship. And I don't mean sexual intercourse. I mean, everything besides that, cuddling, holding, all that good stuff. I mean, it was there, but it was there in small amounts. It's improved. I think between me and Egg, we've talked about this, and we are trying to work on our intimacy level. I think once I started transitioning, she was kind of put off by the intimacy part. So that's something that we are both working on now. Yeah.
Eileen, do you have some thoughts that you want to share?
I am falling into that state of mind where I was, thinking about my 25-year marriage with my ex since 2018. And I'm like, my brain is like freezing, is like gelling up right now. Like, I feel like I'm blocking, like, wanting to talk about it. Because, like, I had to initiate sex after about the first or second year. I don't know. And the whole thing of like, oh yeah, there's so many weird things that unless you go through it, you can't explain to other people. And I may have mentioned this on a trauma talk like months ago, because I haven't been like a regular person on the Trauma Talk recently, but I would want a hug, and I'd walk up to my ex in the kitchen or somewhere, where it doesn't matter where it was. Okay, anyway, and I'd be like, "Oh, I need a hug," and I would go and hug him, and he would just stand there with his arms hanging, like, and I'd like lift his arms, and he'd drop his arms. I mean, it was just oh, it makes me sound like, God, why are you so gross, or what's wrong with you that he wouldn't want to, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, so yeah, my brain is like fritzing a little bit as far as intimacy goes, the topic. Yeah, and then as far as like friendships, platonic friendships, I've had several friendships in the last couple of years where um I've lost a friendship over like the political stuff. Um there's another friend who's a really active precinct committee person and hosts like um candidate meet and greets and postcard parties, and but like she's said some things to some people, like, and weirdly pushed them away for like odd things, like she's very environmental, and um she got mad at this one lady for doing catch neuter release because cats are killing birds, and those cats should be they'd be finding homes where they're indoors or going to shelters and be euthanized. And oh my God, I don't know. Anyway, so like you get close to people because you share common interests, and then there's like just certain boundaries, and you're like, I don't think I can be friends with this person anymore. I don't know. It's weird. You think, I don't know.
well, I get that.
And then another lady like totally she does not get along with our LD chair. Like they just, it's like, I don't know what it is, like, well, a personality conflict, whatever. And then a friend of hers went to one of the meetings and like got back to her, and this younger guy, I don't even know who he was because I wasn't at that meeting, the monthly meeting. And she said that he described her as this, who was that loudmouth, fat, ugly, blonde bitch, blah, blah, blah. And then
Wow.
this friend who's relating this to me is like, I thought that was hilarious because she doesn't get along with it. I'm like, hey, what are we doing here? Is this junior high? Like, why are we tearing each other down? And I'm like, if he has such a problem with it, then he should run for chair or any of the, first vice chair, second vice chair, treasurer, secretary, whatever. And if he thinks he could do a better job, stop tearing people down that are stepping up to leadership positions. And so now I don't want to deal with her anymore. I'm like, oh my God, people are just driving me crazy.
How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, intimacy basically is closeness or a close familiarity, and there are a lot of people who kind of conflate that. They sometimes equate intimacy with sex, and as Onyx Rose was talking about, it's not the same thing. It can be part of an intimate relationship. You can be intimate with your mother and father, or with your siblings, or with a friend. I was in a relationship with a female when I was in my 20s. She was my girlfriend. We never had sex, but I would call that an intimate relationship to a point. I mean, obviously, she didn't know I was gay, obviously, so that I couldn't be completely myself. I couldn't open up completely to her, so it wasn't a level of intimacy where I could be completely open. But there was a level of intimacy to that. Right now, I have a friend of mine, a straight female friend. She's my best friend, and I would say we have an intimate relationship because we can tell each other pretty much anything. It's a close relationship. doesn't involve sex, doesn't have to. But yeah, I think our society has kind of come up with this definition of intimacy that seems to require sex in a way, and I understand, like, when you're having sex with someone, that can be a very intimate experience. You're being vulnerable, you're exposing your body to the other person, and you're letting them in to a place that not a lot of other people, well, I guess it depends on who you are, not a lot of other people have experienced. But yeah, and even with sex, there might be certain acts that are more intimate than others.
Yeah.
When even if I like hook up with a guy or something, and he may not be out, and he may just want to experience, another guy or whatever, usually he won't want to kiss, because kissing for a lot of people can be an intimate act.
It's almost more intimate,
Yeah. They could, because they can have sex and they can separate that. Like, that's not an intimate act for them. That's just physical gratification.
Isn't that true for like prostitutes? I'm not a sex worker, so I don't know, but like usually they don't kiss, I don't know.
I've heard that from a lot of it. I think it varies from, depending on who you are, but
or what they're paying for.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what they're paying for, right?
Right.
But I think even sex workers have a limit of what they will do. And I think, like Brandon said, the intimacy of kissing is probably off, at least the sex workers I know, the intimacy of kissing is off limits.
Yeah, and I think that for a lot of them, that's their way of kind of compartmentalizing, in a way. Like, this is my job. This is what I do, but kissing would be crossing a line, because that is reserved for an intimate relationship, and I'm not in an intimate relationship with my clients, or however they view them. So yeah, I've been involved in intimate relationships that are sometimes sexual and sometimes not. Sometimes familial, sometimes friendships. So there's mine, Sarah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you guys kind of jumped straight into my idea that there's this misconception that intimacy equals sex, and as we've all very much explained, that it doesn't. I would almost define what we have going on here is an emotionally intimate conversation, or intellectually intimate, or maybe a little of both.
Yeah.
I had actually written an article about like my idea of intimacy a while back, and I went so far as to look up the dictionary definition of it, and like literally it doesn't actually bring up anything about sex until the 6th definition.
Right. I looked it up just today.
Yeah. So, and from like even from a social media standpoint, this idea of intimacy is sold to the public as if that the word intimacy is supposed to refer to sex, when it doesn't. There are so many other aspects of intimacy. The creator that I was talking about, that what was it? She's a therapist. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but she talks about 5 different types of intimacy: emotional, physical, intellectual, spiritual, and experiential. And I find that the thing that I experience most, and I think the thing that I value most, is experiential and intellectual intimacy more than anything else. And maybe the emotional, but like I have trouble with my emotions anyhow, so I need to be emotionally intimate with myself.
Yeah, well, that is true. I mean, that's something that I need to do too. I just want to really quickly introduce the concept of squish. And I don't know if y'all have heard of a squish.
I've heard the term, but I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, a squish is it's an asexual spectrum term. And so asexual, of course, is the lack of desire for sex with people. Like, you can have sex with people, but that doesn't mean that you like, I mean, and you can like the sex, but that just means that you don't really care about sex, you know? So a squish is like a platonic relationship. It's almost like a magnetic drawing to each other. So you might say it as like a best friend, like, instead of a bestie, you know, or like when so I had a squish and it burned really quickly, but we were attracted to each other like this. And it was so powerful. Hi, Kitty. It was so powerful that, you know, we just couldn't stay away from each other, but it wasn't sexual. You know, there was no sex involved. There was no pretense of sex. It was just a magnetic drawing. And so that's what a squish is on the asexual spectrum. And so I do experience those. You know, egg is demi. To a certain extent, I'm demi, but, you know, I'm moving over into the omni section. Yeah, so squishing is a big part, and it has been a big part of my life in terms of intimacy. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well,
I've learned something new every day. I'm not familiar with the term omni either.
Omnisexual is a step further than pansexual. I think omnisexual just means like anybody and everybody. So there's no classifications. It doesn't matter if you find this person attractive and you want to have a relationship with this person, no matter who they are, what their gender is, what their sexuality, you know, blah, 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 blah. And that person agrees, then y'all are in a relationship, you know. So that's omnisexual. It's kind of hard for me to distinguish omnisexual versus pansexual.
That's what I was thinking too. I had the conception that what you're describing was pansexual.
I'm not 100% sure on the complete difference. It's just that from the friends that I have, they say that omnisexual is a step further than pan. It is all inclusive, and that's where I get a little bit lost. But you know, I am hitting the pan / omni side of sexuality. I'll have to do some more research into that.
Yeah, I've never looked it up or anything. That's the first. I think you mentioned it the other day. I don't know, not too long ago, and that's the first time I had heard of it.
Right.
I feel like we kind of hit most of the things that I was going to talk about right off the get-go.
Oops.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess I kind of feel like I need to point out also that like physical intimacy isn't exclusive to sex.
There we go.
And like that's not to say that it excludes sex, but it would be to say that like it doesn't have to include it.
It can be holding, touching, you know, cuddling, you know, little touches on the shoulder, on the back, you know, as you walk by your friend or partner. You know, these are things that don't include sex, but definitely build intimacy between partners, and I'm talking about between partners. There doesn't have to be sex. Like I said, Egg and I haven't had sex in 13 years, but that does not mean we have not been intimate. We have an intimate relationship, and we have been partners so long that, in the beginning we had sex all the time, all the time. And then, when it all kind of stopped when that family therapist outed me as trans. And then, there was a 3-year period where we were considering divorce. Actually, she was considering divorce. I was not, but she was. And, I think that brought on what I would call our little lesbian bad death. And, so we stopped the sexual relationship, but we continued with the intimate relationship. No.
It kind of brings up the point of levels of intimacy, because if you have a friendship that you consider to be intimate, but you don't reveal everything about yourself to them, is it truly fully intimate, or is it just a level of intimacy? Like how much do you have to reveal yourself, or how close do you have to be in order for you to consider it an intimate relationship?
That's a really good question.
Because it's just something I thought of especially when I was talking about my girlfriend at the time. I felt like we had some form of intimate relationship, but definitely not fully intimate, because we weren't physically completely intimate as far as sex, but also I didn't feel comfortable enough to reveal that I was gay, obviously, because we dated, and she thought, I don't know what, I can't say what she thought exactly, but it wasn't completely intimate as far as my emotions and that kind of thing. But and it's with your family, you have a different kind of intimacy than you would with and it's kind of like love, I guess, different forms of love. You can love your parents in a different way than you love your siblings, or than you love your partner, or pizza, or dog, or your dog. You can have certain forms of intimacy or certain forms of love for each of those entities, I guess. But they're different forms of love, different forms of levels of intimacy, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if there's like any kind of gradation from one level of intimacy to the other or anything, but I don't know. This is just something interesting to think about, I guess.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that. I think what you're describing wouldn't be negated in any way by the fact that you weren't able to share everything with this person.
Yeah.
But what you were able to share with them, you didn't feel like you were going to be, you weren't going to be judged. You weren't going to be talked down to about it.
Yeah.
That you could share freely with this person.
Let me ask this though: if you didn't tell this person you were gay, and you didn't have sex with this person, are you leading them on by not telling them you were gay, or her by not telling her you were gay? I mean, I guess you can still have a somewhat intimate relationship. Intimate. We've already discussed that intimacy does not equate to sex necessarily.
Right. Yeah.
But does intimacy equate to honesty in a relationship?
Yeah, I mean, that's again, that goes back to the levels, I guess. I mean, at the time, I thought I was trying to be normal, I was trying to have a normal relationship. What I thought, what I had been taught was what I was supposed to do, get married to a female and have a family and live happily ever after, or whatever. But I was leading her on basically in a way, but I wasn't intentionally, you know what I mean? I was trying to be honest and have an honest relationship and have a family and everything, but it wasn't going to work. And I was fooling myself and her and everybody else, I guess, in thinking that it would work that way. And it just, I could have done it. I could have married her, and I probably, I don't know. I probably could have had a family and whatnot. I would have been miserable, and so would she, but I could have done it. I mean, there's that, and that goes to a lot of relationships now, marriages that lack intimacy. People get married for different reasons, and sometimes those reasons have nothing to do with intimacy or love. There many throughout history there have been the kings and queens and things, betrothals, and selling off daughters and things like that, and dowries and all that. And
Right.
many relationships lacked intimacy, at least at the beginning. Sometimes those couples learned more about each other and learned to love each other and grew to love each other and became intimate, I guess. In some cases, not all, but in some cases that would happen. But yeah, I mean, even now, even today, in modern times, there are still many relationships where they get together. Maybe they had sex early on, and the woman got pregnant, and
Oh no, not the pregnancy, but
well, right, yeah, no, but
yeah.
right, but sometimes even just having sex, because in like a religious household, if you have sex, you were supposed to get married.
Yep, that was my mom. She's like, "Well, if he's spending all this time over here, and blah, 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 you might as well get married." I'm like, "Okay." I was 25, he was 20. We could get married, but not walk into a bar together until like till March. We got married in January, and yeah, 2 months later. Yeah, and then your brain's not even fully formed, especially for males. At 20 is what did I say, 25 for the frontal cortex, and
Right.
and women, girls, yeah. And then we had shared interests and common goals, and working in the aviation industry, and he was trying to get his pilot's license, and we had all this fun activities, and the flight school and this, that, and the blah blah blah, and then years go by, and 10 years go by, and like people are like, "Oh, why don't you guys have kids yet?" And I would jokingly say, "Oh, I have to raise him first." I'm like, warning, danger, Robinson. What the hell's that all about? Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
So did you feel that you had an intimate relationship with him before you got married?
Yeah, I mean, the sex was good before and the first year, and I think there might have been some trauma to him or with him, like, I don't know, sexually, maybe had some, I don't know, I can
I'm
only
not talking about sex, though. Remember, we're talking about intimacy.
yeah, oh yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's sex.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being in his bedroom at his parents' house and like talking about, oh yeah, I do get depressed. I really get depressed sometimes, and talking about like emotions. And he was like, "That's okay. Like I can accept that." Like, but he kind of like didn't really deeply have a discussion with me about like, okay, this is kind of a serious thing. how would we deal with, like it was just like, oh yeah, I'm good with that, like and I don't know. Yeah, intimacy. And then I didn't drink alcohol. Like I would go to, it was the 80s, so early 90s. So high school, like, you'd go to parties, there'd be alcohol, pot, whatever. And he didn't like smoking pot, but he drank a lot. So then, like, after we got married, I was like drinking every day. Like I drank so much, like, and so then it just kind of was this fog of of and recently I just stopped drinking alcohol every day like 4 days ago, and I'm like, okay, I'll drink in social, and this is a whole nother conversation, but the intimate, so I think that there was some intimacy, but then the narcissism and sociopath behaviors of my husband at the time, I don't even know if he consciously knew what he was doing, but he started like controlling, emotionally. I don't even know. It just got weird fast. And then I don't know where I'm going with this. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I mean,
I'm trying to think of the intimacy though between me, between he and I, with between me and him. Yeah. Oh, but we shared a lot of like common interest, like, road trips, and we just had a lot of activities that sort of filled the void, because we moved to Utah. I helped open Salt Lake as a station for the airline that I still work for. And so, we had friends who had boats, and we'd go water skiing. We did camping. We did trips to Yellowstone. I mean, it was just like.
So in theory, you had experiential.
But was it just to mark time? In other words, was it just to take the place of, I don't know, not sex, but
deeper conversation?
Yeah. Yeah, I never really had deeper. Well, here's the thing with a sociopath: if we have situations, or we'd be like hashing things out about, finances, or we'd like piss each other off, and then we'd argue, and it would be like this hour-long spiraling down. And at the end, I ended up apologizing to him. He was never at fault, never to blame. Oh, it's just, God.
I've had to actually learn that I am not right all the time, and I don't think I'm a sociopath. I just think I'm right a lot. And Egg has taught me very well that I am not right all the time. And I bring that up as an intimacy thing where I had to understand it intimately with her and with my best friend. That I am not right. And so what I say is not the law, and what I say is not correct 100%. I had to understand that I can do and be vulnerable, and accept that I'm wrong and people are correcting me, and accept that it's not done with spite. It's done because these people truly love me, and they love being with me. So that's
a cool example of intimacy that that you can have these conversations with them, and grow from it. I think it's human nature to want to be right all the time. I don't think it's necessarily a narcissistic or sociopathic trait.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I keep hearing the word love used kind of interchangeably with intimacy, and I want to make sure that we're not conflating the two ideas, because you can absolutely have intimacy without there being any kind of love. I would use my boss as an example. He and I are very intellectually intimate. I had to explain that to him. The different levels of intimacy, and the fact that I consider the conversations that we have to be very intellectually intimate, and I had to explain why, because I can talk to him about things that I may not be able to talk to other people about, but I don't have to worry about him judging me. I don't have to worry about him, thinking less of me because I have an opinion or something, even, whether it's a differing opinion or not. And I think he finally gets it. I think. My mom, on the other hand, does not understand that intimacy and sex and love have nothing to do with each other. Well, not nothing to do, but
I've heard that a lot. Like a lot of times in the past, the word sex was kind of taboo. You didn't talk about sex. You didn't ask people about sex. But
right.
sometimes somebody would say, "Well, have you been intimate with them?" And
Yes.
they mean sex,
Mhm.
but they've got the definition wrong.
They just don't want to say it, like you
Yeah.
said, say sex, like, oh,
Yeah.
Carnal knowledge.
Right. Yeah, that's a biblical kind of thing.
Biblical.
She knew him.
Right.
She knew him.
Yes.
My goodness.
But let me. So I did look up. I did look up intimacy when I found out that was the topic, and the first thing that came up was a close familiarity or friendship. The second thing that came up was closeness. The third thing that came up was a private, cozy atmosphere, and then the fourth thing that came up was a euphemistic term for sexual intercourse. So it's kind of, it's not funny, but it's apropos that all the way down the line is intercourse, where when you think about intimacy, and like Sarah said, and like Brandon said, there are layers. Intimacy is like onion, or are like onions. Onions have layers, and you peel them back, and you can figure out. I do have like intimate relationships with people who are not my wife, and I consider those relationships very close to me. And it's not like I'm going to leave egg, but I just feel, I feel whether stimulated mentally, like you said, Sarah, stimulated not physically, but I don't know, emotionally.
Emotional support. Who can I call when I'm breaking down? Like I went through the list in my mind when I had a recent, episode when I got upset from what my daughter had said. And it's stressful because you're like, ooh, some people you can call and some people you feel like you don't want to burden them,
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of. Oh, sorry, Brandon. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's right. I was just gonna say, it's when you're talking about those definitions and sex being down the list, I kind of wonder if it were added later just because of how people have used it, and they're like, well, people are using it this way so much, I guess this is one of the definitions of it then.
Yeah, like let's just throw it in there.
yeah, because that happens a lot. There have been tons of words added to the dictionary just because of how much people are using them or how they're using them or whatnot.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's how words become words. Yeah.
Oh.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I was going to relate to what Eileen was talking about, that with everything that's been going on, I've been realizing that I am struggling to figure out when I have like experiences and big feelings and things that I'm excited about or things that I'm worried about, not really having that intimate support that I'm used to being able to go to, just for those things.
Living alone sucks sometimes. Sometimes it's amazing. I have this friend at my UU church, started women's studies at ASU in the 70s. Anyway, she's 80 now, and she talks about she loves living alone. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty mature of her. But she
awesome.
and she probably also, I mean, I know she has a huge support system with her sons and her extended family and her neighbors and her community. And, you just, I guess as you age, you work on building that support system. And, yeah. And so when you're busy with like raising kids, and my daughter was in high school, and then now she's the youngest is third year in college, and the oldest has graduated, and it's like that empty nest thing. And then if you're divorced, it's just me and the cats, like, and they're not much support sometimes.
Sometimes I wish that it was more of a I live alone situation, because I'm still cohabitating with my soon-to-be ex. So
Right. There's a term, I forget there's a term for that, isn't other than cohabitating, or I don't know, that doesn't matter. It's not nesting, because nesting sounds better or good, but no, I don't know.
Nesting is more of a polyam type term.
Oh, yeah. 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 Anyway, that's stressful. What you're going through, Sarah. I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, because he hasn't quite gotten the idea that like he doesn't have those rights to intimacy with me anymore. Not the physical aspect of it, because that's been gone for a bit, but just the sharing of stresses from work or things that, just everyday life. That's not my burden to take on anymore. And trying to get used to not having that intimate connection anymore is, I put a hard stop on it for me. He has struggled with that.
I can kind of relate in well, almost the opposite, I guess. I feel like I have a best friend. I can talk to her and feel emotionally intimate. But what I feel like I'm lacking is a physical intimacy with someone. I want to be able to hold someone, to have sex with someone, and be physically intimate. And I don't have that with my best friend or my family or anything like that. My family has never been close physically. We don't hug and kiss a lot, that kind of thing, and my friend, she grew up kind of the same way. She's not a very physically intimate kind of person, and I would be fine with it, because I feel like I've been missing it all my life in a way, so I would like to have that with someone else. And kind of like you, Sarah, you feel like you're missing the more emotional intimacy, I guess, and I feel like I'm missing the physical part of that.
I mean, I can relate to that too, but
I'm missing all of it.
right.
But I live in freaking purple next to red suburb of Phoenix, never mind. That's a whole other conversation. Like there's just no one. There's in my social circles that, yeah, whatever.
I want to talk about intimacy and vulnerability. Do those two necessarily go hand in hand? Or can they be separated?
I kind of think in any type of intimacy, there is some form of vulnerability, because you're opening yourself up even intellectual. I think you're opening your mind to the other person. So there has to be some vulnerability. I can't think of any type of intimacy where there's absolutely no vulnerability at all. So I think there has to be some. I don't know. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're like 100% interwoven with each other, but they are linked, I would think.
so even like one night stands, those are vulnerable. I guess so. Yeah, you have to be vulnerable to allow your body to be shown like that, and allow your body to be taken by someone else, for one night for whatever reason, and just to go on and leave the next day. One night stands don't necessarily have to be carnal, or they can be carnal and still be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Eileen,
I
did
think
you wanna add
sometimes
anything
that's-
to that?
What?
I was asking if you want to add anything to that.
Oh,
I was raised Catholic, so like, I could probably count on one hand, like, if one night stands or whatever. But yeah, the guilt.
yeah.
I never had guilt with one night stands, but I didn't have guilt, but I had like disgust,
Mm.
And that, I don't know, I was never religious, so
Yeah.
that wasn't it. It was just I don't know. I think I'm not the person to have my body like that, used like that, when my mind is not in it,
Yeah.
So I don't know. That is not a form of intimacy for me. One night stands.
I guess I'm thinking back to certain ones that are popping up in my mind, and I think the guilt was more like, oh my God, what if my mom ever found out? Or am I supposed to confess this? How the hell am I supposed to confess that in confession to a celibate priest? Blah, ugh. Oh my God, no. And I would look back and I was like, oh, what the hell? How did that happen? Or, oh, that was weird. Like, and I'm thinking about it like I don't feel like ashamed of the one night stands. I mean, but it's just all the social societal pressures and religious, you know, uh, um, controlling, the thing, oh my God. Yeah, my brain is fritzing again. Yeah, like just control over women's bodies and,
Right.
before birth control, like my mom said, her mom told her, don't ever let it, like, they'd have the Italian side, so cousins, and, and her mother would tell her, don't ever let the boys push you up against the wall. That was the warning she got. And I'm like, what? Like they could get raped by their cousins and get pregnant before birth control. I mean, like, I guess these were like worries back. I mean, things are so, like, evolution hasn't really caught up to, how people are getting into the next generation, with birth control, and women are, I think I ranted about that on the Signal chat the other day, and whose genes get into the next generation. And I don't know how
that conversation.
Intimacy, but yeah, okay. But like, what were we talking about? Oh my God. Sorry, you guys.
Well, you were talking about guilt at one night stands, and I remember, like, my very first one. I felt some guilt because of the way I was raised, religion and everything, but I didn't regret it because it was my first experience with a guy, and I had been so curious about it, and interacting online with guys, and looking at, pictures and things like that, and I just really wanted to know what it was going to be like to be with another guy. And so I had a one night stand with a guy, and I was glad that I did it, just because I'd been thinking about it for so long and wanted to know, and I still did have some guilt, just because of, like I said, the religious You know, you're not supposed to have sex with before you're married, and you're not supposed to have sex with a guy. I was like double, you know, it was a double sin for me. But yeah, I was because throughout the first part of my college years when I was hooking up with guys online and stuff, I realized later that I was using sex as a replacement for intimacy.
Right.
What I really wanted was to be with a guy and to be intimate with him, but I just used sex instead. And
that's what I was getting at from the like hooking up and one night stands. Can
Yeah.
it be vulnerable? I mean, can you be intimate or vulnerable and with one night stands without feeling guilty? No.
to me, it felt like the closeness, the physical closeness, and the sex and the kissing and everything, it felt intimate just for the time that we were together, you know.
Right.
But then once it was over, it's like, well,
Did
that's
it
kind of it, you know.
or
And
any
oh, sorry, what?
did it turn like to disgust or anything? Like, were you upset with yourself because you had this one night stand and what you really wanted was a partner who you could be intimate with? Or were you just like, pretty cool with having one night stands? When I was younger, I was pretty cool with it. Not going to lie. No.
I was okay with it at first, at least. And because, well, like I said, especially with the first one, I wanted to know. And I was curious for so long, and it kind of satisfied that curiosity at least, but it didn't satisfy the intimacy that I was looking for, but I didn't know it at the time. You know, it was years later before I realized what I really wanted was to be intimate with someone. And I didn't look at it with disgust, though.
It
I
serves
didn't.
its purpose, like.
Right.
But I'm
Yeah.
thinking of it in terms of transactional. You kind of want a return on your investment, and so you're investing your whole self. And what's coming out of it, you feel like, gosh, I feel like I deserve more, or well, we all deserve to be cared about.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want someone to. I always say, God, I wonder if I'll ever meet anybody who gives a shit about me, like as a boyfriend or relationship or whatever.
Reciprocation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, and I didn't feel disgust, but I did later realize that I felt empty
Right.
afterwards.
Something's missing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
because if you have an intimate partner, if you have an intimate relationship and you have sex afterward, you conceivably, I mean theoretically, you shouldn't feel empty because you still have that person, and that it didn't end with with your orgasm or whatever, after the sex was over. Your relationship didn't end. With a one night stand, it does.
right. It's just over.
Yeah, everything, the intimacy, the faux intimacy, at least the
There
sex, everything. You leave his house, and
it's like it dissipates, it's just like magic.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Yeah. Now, with the friend with benefits, it's a little different because you're going to see that person again. But in between those times, I guess it depends on your level of friendship. Friend with benefits, it depends on that friendship. Usually, I've only had like one or two, but we really weren't friends. I would say we didn't call each other up and talk and things like that. We might have hung out just a little bit, and talked a little bit before and after sex, but it wasn't. It still wasn't an intimate relationship. There was still that gap. Had sex, that night was over, and until the next time, there was still this emptiness or lack of intimacy.
So, and this is going to be kind of wild out there, maybe not. Intimacy with substances, like you feel. I don't even know how to put it. I'm trying to figure it out in my head. Let me see. Intimacy with substance. So, let's say you have a friend with benefits, but that friend with benefits comes with substance use and substance abuse. After you have a one-night stand, but you're going to see this person again, does one feel so empty that they then fill themselves up with things that are bad for them, like cocaine or any other type of drug, to kind of fill the time and pass the time until your next physical intimacy, and the reason why I'm saying that is because that's how I did it. I am an addict. I do not do drugs anymore, but I did. And that was how I lived my life before I met Egg. It was a bad way to live, but that was what I thought intimacy was, the fact of not necessarily being able to be intellectually stimulated, but physically stimulated, and then pass the time until I was physically stimulated again.
Yeah, to me that it kind of sounds like a replacement or to fill the gap, basically, instead of when you can't have intimacy, well, you'll just block it out with substances, or you fill the void that, like I was talking about, that emptiness that I felt, fill it up with something else.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was doing with alcohol before COVID happened. Now that I'm thinking about that, because like prior to COVID, I drank really heavily every night, and then COVID happened, and we're all like, we were living with my parents at the time, so it was me, my then husband, our child, and both my parents living in one house, and all of us being under one roof constantly. Yeah, I gave up drinking.
Yeah.
That would have made me drink even more.
I know, and that's like what a lot of people did.
Damn.
But I like completely went the opposite direction with it.
That's probably for the best, though,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I think suffice to say that intimacy is a very complex concept.
It is.
Yeah.
The act of intimacy is just not sexual. It is so many layers. It is emotional. It is intellectual. It is it can be physical. It's just so many things like that make a relationship, if it's going to be a relationship, intimate. And it can be a relationship of, like Brandon or like Sarah, like everybody said here, that it can be any type of relationship. Whether it is friends, parents, so on and so forth. Like Brandon said, I did not have that close relationship with my family. My wife does. So they always say, I love you before they leave. They always kiss each other, it's constant, and then I got to thinking, like, my family never did that. We didn't have that level of intimacy, and we still don't. And that kind of bothered me. And, when I started saying I love you to my parents, my sisters, and this is kind of fucking wild. My sisters were like, that's a white person thing. Black people don't do that shit. And I was like, okay, well, that made me kind of like self-conscious, but, I don't really believe that. So, but it did make me self-conscious. Yeah, and I did like the way her family worked versus mine.
And you only know from your experience of other people's families, and that might have been your siblings' experiences of Black versus white families, and then you project it out to the as a stereotype or whatever.
Right.
And as you guys were talking about like levels of intimacy, and I'm thinking about the element of trust, that you're not going to be judged is very woven in the whole intimacy thing. Because if you reveal yourself, you're trying to be intimate, but then you have to trust the person you're allowing in and revealing yourself to. So that whole thing about worried about being judged.
And that ties into vulnerability too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, all these things are very much tied together. It's hard to tell where one begins and the other one ends. Well, we're at an hour.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm looking at that. I was like, well, we made it through.
I heard Eileen's chimes.
Yeah, I know. I was like, whoa, that keeps. Oh, yeah, it's 12 o'clock. There's a lot of them. I was like,
we started on the chimes. We'll end on the chimes. So, next one will be on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
So, thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate
have a great
you.
day.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
You guys take care.
Peace and chicken.